Hello and welcome to Home with Sarah Jane. I am Sarah and I'm a homeschooling mom to two girls ages 9 and 13. So today I wanted to share with you what we read during our World War II unit study. A lot of these books are really sad, so you might want to skim through some of them to make sure that you're okay with reading them to your kids, because some of them are pretty tragic. But the first book I have is actually a really sweet book, and it is A New Coat for Anna. So this one is just like a nice little picture book, and it's about the aftermath of World War II in Europe and how Anna's mother is trying to sell the few valuables that she has left to make a coat for her young daughter. And it just takes you through the process of them trying to get the material to make the coat and how they have to, wait actually a really long time for the coat to be made. It's just a really sweet book. My youngest daughter really enjoys this one. It's actually one that we read all the time, not just for World War II, but this one we did pull out when we were studying World War II because it talks about like the aftermath of it and how the stores didn't have much to offer. This one is called The War That Saved My Life. This one was a really good book. This is about Ada, who is 10 years old, and she has never left her one-room apartment. And her cruel mother is very humiliated by Ada's twisted foot to even let her go outside. So when her little brother Jamie is shipped out of London to escape the war, Ada sneaks out to join him. And they are forced to live with this woman named Susan Smith. And she basically takes care of them. And it's happening all during World War II. So the kids were even shipped out of the city because of the threats of bombs for where they were. So this was a really good book. And then there is a sequel to it, and it's called The War I Finally Won. And at this point, Ada is 11 years old, and World War II is still raging on. So it's just a very, very good story. They are fairly long. Like, both of them are, really thick. Like the first one, let me see. Yeah, the first one's over 300 pages. And the second one as well. The second one's actually almost 400 pages, but they are so good. And we did listen to some of this on Audible, and they were really good. We really enjoyed the way that they were read and the person that read them. So some more books that we read to study World War II was What Was the Holocaust? Who Were the Tuskegee Airmen? And to be honest with you, I never learned anything about the Tuskegee Airmen when I was in school, so I found this one very fascinating. Who was Winston Churchill? What was D-Day? What was Pearl Harbor? What was the bombing of I can never pronounce it right. What was the bombing of Hiroshima? Now, this is the one that I used for my youngest daughter, Who Was Anne Frank? I read this one to my youngest, and while I read this to my youngest, my oldest daughter read The Diary of a Young Girl, Anne Frank, or Anne Frank, The Diary of a Young Girl. As you can see, my copy is like so bad. I really need a new copy of this one. It's like taped together. I mean, I have book glue, but book glue couldn't even save this one. And then another book that we read was 20 and 10. And this one, it takes place during the German occupation of France. 20 French children were brought to a refuge in the mountains. And one day, a young man came to their school with a request. And the request was if they could take in and hide 10 Jewish children. So this one was very good. My daughter, my oldest daughter really liked this one. It is short. So like if you're just looking for something really quick, this one would be a good choice. And it does have a few pictures in it. So. And then this one is called The Devils Arithmetic. This one was very good. It was very sad. So this one is about Hannah, who goes to her family's Passover, and she is kind of sick and tired of hearing about the stories that her family tells about during the Holocaust. But when she opens the front door to symbolically welcome the prophet Elijah, she is transported back to a Polish village in the year 1942, where she basically lives out you know, the experiences that her family was talking about. And it's a really good book. I mean, I think we read this one in 2 days. I mean, it's not too long. I want to say it's like 164 pages, but my kids, this was one that they didn't want to put down. This one was very good. I think that this one was one of my favorites. There was 2 of them that were just really good, and this was one of them. This one's called Number the Stars. And this one is, it takes place in 1943, and Anne-Marie is living in, I think it's pronounced Copenhagen, and she is basically just, you know, an ordinary girl in an ordinary home going to school, but then they're starting to have food shortages, and there's constant presence of Nazi soldiers now, and basically it's about how the people of Denmark help to get Jewish people, you know, away from the Nazis. So it's basically about the Danish resistance and their plan to smuggle the entire Jewish population out of Denmark and into safety. So it was just a really good book. When I first picked this up, I was just thinking, oh, okay, yeah, just another reader. But this one was like one I would pick up again myself and just read it. This was the other one I really enjoyed. And it's hard to say enjoyed because it's so sad. Like, I literally cried the entire time reading this book. And this is, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right, but it's Sadako and the Thousand Paper Cranes. This one was just so sad. This is basically the aftermath of the bombings in Japan and how this young girl was affected by it. And basically she gets sick, and she's recalling a Japanese legend that if she was to fold 1,000 paper cranes, the gods would grant her a wish and make her healthy again. And this one is based on a true story, and it is, oh my gosh. I mean, I read this one only to my older daughter. I actually read it to my older daughter and my sister. My sister was here when I was reading this, and we read this in one sitting. It is a shorter book, but this one was extremely. I mean, they're all sad, right? They're all sad. It's all about really sad stuff, but this one, it's only 63 pages. I cried the entire time. The entire time I cried reading this book. Another book we read was called Shadow of His Hand, and this is a story based on the life of a Holocaust survivor. So this one is just about a little girl that dreams of becoming a ballerina, and then basically reality sets in that she is a Jewish girl in Nazi-ruled Germany, and those dreams are basically just, you know, crushed. And her father is an Aryan and her mother is Jewish, so it's just about, you know, separation and, you know, what her family has to go through during the Holocaust. And again, this is another one that is extremely sad. But it was very good. And then, we also read, I don't have a copy of it, but I will insert a picture. We read Farewell to Manzanar. And that one is about a Japanese, or how do you say it? A Japanese American internment camp. So basically, you know, a Japanese internment camp that's in the United States, and how these Japanese families were forced to live in these camps during World War II. That one was a tough one too. My kids liked Farewell to Manzanar, but it wasn't their favorite. I think for me, I was able to connect a little more to the story because I actually have friends that, you know, more than one friend that actually had grandparents that were inside the Japanese internment camp. So for me, it hit a little closer to home for me, to where my kids, it was just, you know, they cared for it, but like, it was like, it wasn't their favorite. Like my daughter's favorite was The War That Saved My Life. Both of my daughters, actually, this was their favorite one. But the last book that I have for you is called Surviving Hitler, and it's a boy in the Nazi death camps. Again, this one is probably for a little bit older children. It was a very good book. I did like that it had pictures throughout this book as well. And this is, it says, caught up in Hitler's final solution to annihilate Europe's Jewish people, 15-year-old Jack is torn from his family and thrown into a nightmarish world of the concentration camps. So this is basically about his survival story. And throughout the book, you do get images from that time. I'm trying to see if I can find some more. But yeah, so I mean, there are images throughout this book. Again, a lot of these books, especially I'd say this one, and where is it? I would say that these three here are probably the ones that were a little bit more for like older children. They were still really good. My kids still really enjoyed them, but they were a lot more detailed. So, and it wasn't just about, you know, a fictional character and it's just a historical fiction that you fall in love with the character, like in The War That Saved My Life. These were about real people. So I think that that's what made the difference for me, is that this wasn't just a story being, you know, made up to tell us about that time. It was people's actual experiences. So it was very challenging to read some of these books, but I'm so glad that we've read every single one of them. I would never regret reading any book, but even if it's horrible, like I would still, it's never time wasted. So that's what I have for you today, and I would love to hear your recommendations on any other books that you feel we should read to help study World War II, the Holocaust, Japanese internment camps. I like to teach my kids from all angles when it comes to history, so really covering that wide range of World War II is what I'm looking for. So if you have any books you want to recommend, please leave it in the comments, and thank you for stopping by. I'll see you later. Bye.